Hitler, Hitler, Hitler. Okay.
Good way to start the recording, dude. That'll be our starting little cold open. Hitler.
Hitler, Hitler, Hitler.
Kanye.
Hitler 1 2. All new thinking.
Yeah, nice. Got the same
About
edition.
Hitler.
Yeah. I was thinking, did you want to do Lana Del Rey next time?
Sure.
I saw her book's a little expensive.
Yeah, I saw that too. I was thinking about that too.
I was like, ooh.
I mean, we could. No, we could do a different celeb, but I guess she's the latest, isn't she?
She's the latest, yeah. Whatever.
Well, we can say it with the caveat that, assuming we can find affordable copies.
Yeah.
And if not, you might be subject to some other horrible... what's it called? Lana Del Rey.
Violet bent backwards.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's...
Over the Grass. Oh, even more. Ugh. Yuck. Okay. Yucky. This one's $500 because it's signed. Damn, it is pricey. It's like, that's like $20.
Yeah.
Dude, why?
So it's like, I mean, it's like $6 more than like a brand new poetry book. Like,
That's
that came
used.
out that year. Yeah.
No way. No way her book is that good.
I mean, it's not, dude. I would assume it's the equivalent of Jim Morrison or Franco or anybody else who claims that they can write poetry while doing something else, or that song lyrics are the same thing.
Is it a line she took from Ginsberg?
Probably.
Ew.
Even more appropriate to do it after, yeah, Ginsberg. But that's not this week. That's how we're gonna start the new year off. So.
I was at a party. No, I went to a party. I came in hot. Okay, so it's her lyrics.
Yeah, it's lyrics.
I went to a party.
Yeah.
I came in hot.
Can't stop.
I got
Came
my
into
red
the
dress
party
on.
feeling like P. Diddy. Yeah, that's what it is. But we'll get there. Because this episode is a Christmas episode, even though we only have one Gentile on the cast today on the Fine Pod.
This could be contentious.
It could be contentious. So if he'll give you what it's like to grow up as a child that doesn't celebrate Christmas, how much it sucks.
Yeah, except it doesn't really.
Yeah,
It's a crazy thing.
yeah. I do want to get your perspective on Christmas because of that. Like, not that we're just reading like the most famous Christmas story ever, but that.
Oh, we'll get there. I promise.
Yeah,
because
I do want to hear your
take.
take.
We're gonna have some different feelings about this book.
Yeah. I want to get to that too, the nostalgia difference, because growing up as somebody who didn't celebrate Christmas, and then growing up as somebody where Christmas was a big fucking deal in my life. Like as a kid, It was like my favorite time of year. Still is one of my favorite time of years, although I don't really like the cold anymore.
Yeah, it's a very nostalgic time of year.
Yes.
Generally.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Heavy.
Bored.
Heavy.
I am heavy. Bored.
I may say that the male is entirely hostile. No!
Resources.
Life, friends, is boring. We must not say so.
All right. This is Heavy Today we're doing our Christmas episode where we're reading the classic, the most famous Christmas story ever written, besides the actual Bible, I guess, A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. Everybody's heard of this. Everybody's heard of this because, again, it's the most famous Christmas story ever written apart from the Christian, the Christian myth or whatever, the Jesus story. Yeah, Sophie's shrugging at me. I was like, yeah, okay, I know, Jews,
I mean, I know what I've been told. I've heard a thing or two about the guy.
Well, you did marry into to Christmas celebrations, so now you're like stuck celebrating Christmas, whether you like it or
But
not.
it's like Christmas for children, though, because they're 2 young nieces.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So it's really just about that. So it's not like... And now all of the grown-ups are like, maybe we'll just go out for sushi this year.
Yeah, I mean, so basically what you're saying is if you celebrate Christmas, you're celebrating Hitler.
Yeah. Basically.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to A Christmas Carol by Charles Hitler.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this book...
Charlie Hit, as they used to call him back in the day.
Yeah, this book needs no introduction. I mean, we'll give a little bit. Dickens, one of the most famous writers in the Western canon, A Christmas Carol, like I said, the most famous Christmas story apart from like the myth of Jesus and all that. But give you the rundown just so we have our book lovers on this podcast. Sophie and I have the same version of this book. We've got a cheap little Bantam Classics version. We're going to link that in the description. It's a good one to have on your shelf. There are actually a lot of, when I was looking to buy a copy of this, I had never actually read this book before, but like I knew it because I'd seen the story so much in the movie adaptations and all that. But this one was like, there were a lot of cool like collector's editions available of this one, like hardcover, gilded gold page, and they weren't that expensive. They're like $20 for like a nice hardcover illustrated.
I mean, it's a small book.
Yeah, it's like a 90-page novella, not even. And I thought about buying one of those because I was like, oh man, that would be great. But then I was like, oh, if I want to write in it, I don't want to write in one of the nice hardcover, like gilded pages versions. So I just bought the cheap Bantam Classics edition. And the Bantam Classics was originally published the novel or the novella itself was originally published in 1843. So we're going way back there with this. And then the Bantam edition that we have was originally put out in 1965. And then the edition that we have right now, the mass market edition, was originally put out in 2009. So that's the technical shit for all our book nerds that listen to this. Pick yourself up a copy. If you haven't read it, it's quick, it's fun, if you like the Christmas stories and like the Christmas in general. All that good stuff. All right, let's do housekeeping before I forget. Housekeeping before we move into this. Reminder to listeners, we're still looking for workshop horror stories. Send in a workshop horror story to heavyboardpodcast@gmail.com. We'll start getting into that on the air. That'll be a lot of fun. If you don't know, we also have a subscription plan. You can subscribe at patreon.com/heavyboard and receive full uncensored episodes only for subscribers, including bonus segments that have to do with this episode, listeners. So stay tuned. If you don't want to do that, can't afford that, there are other ways to support us. You can check out, subscribe, like, and share to any of our YouTube channels. Subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform. Leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, anywhere else you can review podcasts. That helps us grow. It's a free way to support us right there. It helps us out. And that's it, as always. Support us if you like.
Did you hear my cat?
No, I didn't. It's not
She's
picking up.
fucking yelling.
She upset?
No, she's just hungry.
Hungry kitty.
She's doing her dinner meow.
Did you feed her?
Bill is feeding her now.
Okay. All right. Let's just do thoughts. Let's just do initial thoughts as always, dude. Impressions, likes, dislikes before we get into it.
It's a little bored. A little
Sophie.
boring.
Yeah.
A little, be nice and buy things for people. That's what I get from it.
Be nice and buy things. We get into the capitalist metaphor already, dude.
I mean, yeah, it seems, and maybe it's just because, like, I already know the story, which is funny because, like, I didn't spend a lot of time with this. Like, I vaguely know it, I'm sure I watched the Muppet version.
Let's
as
talk
a
about
child.
the Muppet eventually, dude. I want to talk
I mean,
about
we'll
the
have
Muppet
to
version.
because, frankly, I think it's the best one. But,
yeah, it is one of the better ones, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It was like, the thing that surprises me is I enjoyed reading it more than I enjoy watching most versions of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Unusual for Sophie to,
I mean, it didn't, like, it's Dickens. He's a good writer. Like, but
yeah.
the story is so just sort of blah to me. It's just like, oh.
Well, like you said, we know it 100 times. We've seen it 100 times. We've heard it. We know how it goes. We know how it ends.
Oh, I was scared into being a nice man.
Scared into being a nice man.
Suddenly, I'm nice now.
Yeah. I liked it.
And this child isn't going to die because I'm a nice man.
I liked it. I haven't read much Dickens for somebody that has 3 English degrees.
Yeah, neither have I. It's really embarrassing.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. And honestly, I was impressed for this being published in the 1840s, how smooth. A lot of times that's like, oh, it's bogged down. The sentence structure is very long and winding for a lot of that kind of 19th century literature. We've read some of it on the pod before. We've read some of this 19th century masterpieces but Dickens has a style that I think that really holds up. Like, it still holds up. Like, I was kind of like, I enjoyed it. I mean, the humor, we're going to talk about the humor and things like that. The jokes, it flows. It flew, like, kind of thing. It wasn't like this, oh, I'm bored as shit. I flew
in
through
some
it.
ways it feels like a children's story.
Yeah, there's a little bit of children's story to it. Or you mean because
it feels like
the fable
it doesn't
aspect?
Yeah, well, it's a fable. It's really brief. There aren't like too many layers going on here. It doesn't have
It's a simple story. Yeah, it's very simple.
Yeah, it's really simple. It doesn't, like, the characters are not particularly complex.
I was surprised.
I'm sure you could argue against that. I'm sure we could be like, no, Bob Cratchit.
Well,
I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm sure he is, but, like, we only get such a brief view of him. I don't think how complicated a man he might be is even relevant to the story.
Yeah, I did notice that reading this, coming to this after seeing, like, a bunch of movie versions and actually literally watching, like, the Muppets version and things like that almost every year of my life since it came out, is Bob Cratchit in the actual book is not very fleshed out. Yeah, like, it's more fleshed out, Bob Cratchit, through the lore, through the many interpretations in film and stage plays.
Yeah, I would say no one is as fleshed out in the book as they are in the adaptations.
Scrooge. I mean, Scrooge is, and Marley still, from, like, what we get from that. But, yeah, the Cratchit family even is just more of a character in a lot of the movie adaptations than it is in the... Although it's, it's one of the main characters in the book still, because it's his, like, main clerk, as everybody already knows. But yeah, I mean, I liked it. I'm glad we read it because I hadn't read it before. It's another one of those books where, like, a lot of people pretend to have read it and just haven't.
Yeah, I mean, it's also one of those books where it's like, yeah, I mean, if you have seen it, like, you've basically read it.
Yeah, because a lot of the adaptations...
There isn't a lot you are missing, if anything, really. And a lot of that, like, I mean, a lot of the adaptations, I think, really just maybe not line for line, but they lean heavily on the original dialogue.
Yeah, well, since this is only like a 90-page novella, like, you could easily just put the entire thing into a movie without taking anything out. Like, you could put the whole thing in like a 2-hour, hour-and-a-half movie.
You could put the whole thing in and still not quite enough to fill it.
And if you look at some of the famous specials, like one of the ones I always watched as a kid was the Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol special that would, like, be on TV all the time. And that one's like 45 minutes, and it really has the entire story in it, right? Like it's like you could fit the entire book into like a 45-minute TV special in the 50s or whatever, or 60s when that came out. But yeah, it's all there.
Well, it also makes sense as to why they turned it into a production that contains music.
A lot of musical productions of it. Almost every adaptation contained a lot of music to it. I'm going to get into that, listeners. I'm going to do something similar like what I did with Dracula for those that listen to our podcast regularly. I'm going to go through, as a bonus for subscribers only, a few Christmas Carol adaptations and review them compared to the novel and things like I did for Dracula. So if you're interested, subscribe. Patreon.com/heavyboard. And we'll talk about some movie adaptations on this just because we've seen a bunch, but I'm going to do the same bullshit that I did for all those that like it. I guess I'm the only one. I don't know. That we'll go back and watch the silent adaptations and then like the ones in the 50s and then like the 70s, how they changed, how they shifted.
I tried
when the
to
music
watch
was
some
added. Yeah.
Dude, I thought about watching some of the earlier adaptations. I was like, I can't do it.
The most famous ones, I've been looking up a lot of them, and this one, Dracula had a fuckload of movies made out of it, and then like, spin-offs, sequels, spoofs, all that kind of shit on top of it.
But what's the most famous?
Yeah, this has 135 different movie adaptations, and that's including like, the cartoon specials like Mr. Magoo's. 135. So I'll be doing the same thing, listeners. I'll be narrowing it down to like 5-10 of the ones from maybe each decade, couple decades, maybe a little bit more in the New Hollywood era and stuff like that. But so I'd like to go through the decades and just see how this story evolved in the pop culture inferences and like how we got to where it's like the most famous Christmas story ever written. So subscribe if you're into that. That'll be out in December next month. That'll be out in December. Yeah.
It's a little corny.
Corny?
Yeah, I think I kind of expected that though for like a feel good.
Just because it's a redemption like kind of archetype, or
I mean, just moments where even when Scrooge is like talking to the spirits, and he instantly has the response he's supposed to have every time. Oh, spirit. I can sense that our time together is ending. It's like, yeah, no shit. Can you really?
200-year-old book,
Yeah.
almost. But yeah, and then there's a little preface in here
A little bit.
that Dickens wrote himself.
Also a little corny.
Yeah, I have endeavored in this ghostly little book to rise the ghost of an idea, which shall not put my readers out of humor with themselves, with each other, with the season, or with me. May it haunt their house pleasantly, and no one wish to lay it. Their faithful friend and servant, C.D. That he did that December 1843. May it haunt their house pleasantly. And that's one thing that I'm fascinated about this is because it's a Christmas story, but it's also a ghost story. Like it's also kind of that like, Victorian era ghost that everybody's obsessed with, these drawing room ghost tales,
Yeah, well...
And it uses that on top of the Christmas, very Christian, Western European, you could say, lore. And I just think that's a great little thing for the book. And it's so famous now, I think it is easy for us to be like, well,
Is that a tradition that started with this? Or was that were Christmas ghost stories a tradition before this?
I don't know.
Because I know that they are...
I don't know.
Not as much in the U.S., but I think in the UK it is like a thing.
Yeah, I don't know. When like specifically we would say like Christmas ghost stories, but I just like the way it's used, like all those different aspects. But what do we think of the preface there that I read?
Yeah, it's cute, charming. I mean, I think angling for it to be a popular story. I know, what was I reading about him? Maybe I was listening to something about him that was talking about how he didn't want to sacrifice entertainment to achieve the literary.
Maybe that's why I like this so much,
So
because
he
that's
tried
something I'm
to
obsessed
bring
with. Yeah.
sort of the popular
Ghost story style.
story
Yeah.
with like literary themes.
Which is why I probably like it so much. And after I read this, I texted Sophie. I was like, man, I should probably read like all of Dickens, not just because like I got through all of college and grad school without having to, but because I'm just like, man, it's actually pretty good. Like I think he cares about that through all of his work. That kind of like what still has to be entertaining. You want to tell a nice, deep, emotionally resonant story that's like a literary thing, great. But like if you're not going to give us a kind of entertainment along top of that, you know, it doesn't quite hit the mark. Entertainment's important. I mean, like entertainment's important. If you want people to read your book, it has to be better, you know, than like every other form of entertainment you could get.
So let's see, apparently it was like it's been a long tradition. Tell ghost stories at Christmas, but was like stopped by the Puritans.
Oh yeah. Those Puritans, dude. Ruining
Created
everything.
an ordinance in 1644.
Oh yeah, right before they started burning witches.
Yeah. Abolished the feast day of Christmas, blah, blah, blah.
The religious wars of the 1600s.
This abruptly changed something. And I guess it came back with A Christmas Carol.
Yeah, I mean, as it should. I mean, you've mentioned it already. It's an uplifting story. Maybe not if you're
very
like,
light.
Yeah, it's a feel good. Like a lot of Christmas stuff is feel good, right? And I think of like the most famous Christmas stories that we know of, like in like a lot of them are like movies that we had in the 20th century, like classic movies that people roll out every Christmas and things. They play on like TV and stuff every Christmas.
Sure. Name some.
Well, the big one, It's a Wonderful Life, Meet Me in St. Louis.
Talking to someone about that one today. I haven't actually ever watched It's a Wonderful Life.
You've never seen it?
But I hear it is among the darker
It's dark,
of
yeah.
the Christmas tales. And
It's
I was intrigued by that.
It's one of the best Christmas movies ever made. I think it's up there with one of the best Christmas stories ever told. A little dated in parts, but I watch it almost every year, and It's a Wonderful Life makes me cry every time I watch it.
Damn, dude.
Always the same scene every single time, dude. Like every single time. I mean, when I was a kid, I wasn't, but like as an adult, like watching it, I'm just tearing up every single fucking time. It's, yeah, you should watch it if you've never seen it.
You help people's lives even though you're miserable.
Well, it's this idea of wealth, and I think that's a theme in this too, right? When we talk about the class elements with the nephew in this story, A Christmas Carol, right? So they automatically set up the rich versus poor kind of class elements. Scrooge is a rich, wealthy kind of man. His nephew is rather poor, and his nephew's
Is his nephew also poor? I know it's like Bob Cratchit and his
nephew's
especially poor.
Yeah, his nephew's not as poor as Cratchit, but he's poorer than Scrooge.
Yeah.
And Scrooge is, disgusted by him at the beginning of the book, being like, well, you're wasting your time. You're like, what are you doing? Being a cheerful you have nothing to be cheerful for. Like, you don't have enough money. What are you happy for? Why ever did you get married is what Scrooge asks him. Because I fell in love is what his nephew says to him, right? Talk about a great fucking line, dude. I mean, and this is like with the It's a Wonderful Life thing too, man. Like the It's a Wonderful Life is the same themes, like these kind of like, you're wealthy, like wealth is not money necessarily. I know, okay, yes it is, right? Sure. But like that's what these stories, and I think the reason that these stories are so beloved is because it talks about wealth other than money, right? Like the family, love, community, like all the things that we human beings need and care deeply about, connection with people, like all of that. It kind of, and there's been this I don't know if it started in the 80s or what, it was probably always there, but there's been this thing most of my lifetime where like, oh, Christmas sucks. Like it's like this kind of fuck Christmas, you know, like fuck everything, to that stupid fucking attitude that I'm just so sick of now that I'm like older. Where it's like, fuck Christmas, it's just a bunch of work and it's a bunch of like, you know, tasks you have to perform and you have to pretend to be happy and blah blah. And I'm just like, yeah, dude, it's like that Charlie Brown, dude, Charlie Brown Christmas. It's like you're missing the whole fucking point, Charlie Brown. Like, you're missing the whole point of Christmas. Can someone tell me what Christmas is all about? Charlie Brown Christmas, right? Shout out. So I am super nostalgic for Christmas. If listeners haven't known already, I'm super nostalgic for it. Even as an adult, I love the Christmas music. I like Christmas movies. I love classic Christmas stories like this.
Yeah, I'm nostalgic for it, but definitely not as much as you are. I'm nostalgic for the time of year, for all the lights, you know, for the general sort of vibe, you know, for lack of a better word.
I think that's a good point there, the vibe of it, right? These decorations, the holly, the lights, in Dickens, in Dickens' time it was straight up candles, but you know, bulbs, like the lights that we put on trees now, like the colors, the light displays, the idea of giving, right? Like that's why there's specifically that scene where they're asking him to give to like a poor charity or something, to charity, and he's refusing. Like that's the time of year, right? So we'll give back. Like Thanksgiving is part of this maybe a little bit, but not as big as Christmas, right? With this kind of, you know, people disregard this, but this is baked into the cake. It's like redemption time. It's like time to forgive, time to be grateful, thankful, like you're alive, another year kind of thing. And look at what you have, you know, take stock of what you have, all that kind of thing. Same thing with that. That's why I mean, like, It's a Wonderful Life story kind of follows the Dickens story, right? It really follows a Christmas Carol arch. Okay, here's an angel instead of a ghost that he meets up with, and the angel helps him understand that actually he isn't a miserable man, and like he actually did a lot of good for this community, and in fact, if he wasn't there, the community would be destroyed. I guess this gets to masculinity too. I mean, it's like this kind of what men feel like they need or something out of their life, or what they feel gives them some type of meaning. I don't know where I'm going with that, but just popped into my head.
Oh man, I don't know where you're going with that either.
Well, just because it's like, it's a very specific,
like a providing kind of need.
Providing need, but also the need to be not noticed in the same way that everybody needs to be noticed, but just like appreciated. And I think, I don't know, I think of all those scenes, this is going to sound dumb as shit, but even a couple years ago, man, I remember watching Fox fucking, you know, Sunday football. They had the Fox team on, and it was the year Jimmy Johnson got into the Hall of Fame. And I'm not going to go into Jimmy Johnson, famous football coach, okay? He's on Fox now as an analyst. He does the Sunday shows and stuff for the football season and all that. Anyway, they surprised him on air by telling him he got into the Hall of Fame, right? Like that year for the class of 2020. This was a couple years ago. And like they came out on air to surprise him, and he just broke down into tears. Like he just broke down into tears on air and was just so grateful and thankful, and like could barely say that he was so grateful that like he worked with all these great people, all these great players, he had this opportunity. And he said it's just so great to know that people actually give a shit, like kind of thing, where like I put so much into this, and my entire life was dedicated to this, and to just know that at the end of it now, like, you know, he's in his 70s, 80s now, that like it mattered just a little bit, even if it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things that much, right? Just enough, like it mattered just a little bit type thing. And there is that level of it, I think, to Scrooge, the character, to, right, It's a Wonderful Life story, to a lot of Christmas redemption things. So I don't know, I've just been thinking about it. I guess it's like a totally...
Yeah, I'm just so much less familiar with like Christmas stories generally.
Well, that's why I'm interested to talk to you about this too, dude. I mean, Sophie grew up in a I guess liberal Jewish household, so it's like
We
they
call
weren't
it reform.
reform,
Jews.
but you weren't going to temple every week, but you were like
Reform.
you celebrated the holidays. You didn't
We celebrated a couple of holidays.
yeah. But like Christmas wasn't a part of it, so there is
Christmas
that kind
was
of
not.
there is that kind of not gap, but just like like there's the
Yeah,
I have the nostalgia.
Well, it just isn't like something. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like my parents watch Christmas movies, and my dad listens to Christmas music. But and I watched all the Christmas movies too. Well, obviously not all of them, but like all those claymation movies and all of the, all the kiddie stuff. I mean, it's not like there were like a ton of Hanukkah movies.
Yeah, that's why Adam Sandler tried to make all those Hanukkah things.
Terrible.
You didn't like 8 Crazy Nights?
No, I didn't watch
dude.
it. I didn't care.
Oh, dude, it's pretty good, dude. You should. The music's pretty funny. Like, it's funny. And that's the same thing. It's a redemption arc. It's this miserable man, Adam Sandler. It's it's a Christmas Carol, but it's for Hanukkah. So it's this, man who's miserable, and then Hanukkah comes around, and he has to realize that actually he has a lot of stuff in his life that's worth caring about, worth putting the effort in. Maybe he should change some of his habits because it's making people around him miserable. Like, I don't know. Like, there's something to that story. I mean, it's an archetype, right?
You're saying the holidays exist to make us forget that we're sad.
Not necessarily forget that we're sad, but I am getting at this idea of tradition, this idea of things that can only be achieved through hundreds, thousands of years of tradition kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Which is why it feels magical and or spiritual, particularly if you're younger, right? If you're an adult, you're not feeling that kind of, oh, it's magic season. But like when you're,
I think you can, but like, it's different. Again, it goes into like the nostalgia of it, right? Like some of it's just sort of feeling what you used to feel.
Yeah, and people are always. I'm not even saying there's like, but yeah, I think it's just that is so important
because it's not even just about the Christmas part of it. It's like snow days.
Snow days, yeah,
like
the
all that
lights,
shit.
like you said, the lights, the lore around it, Santa Claus, gifts. You're just getting things, right?
Dude, that when I learned that people believed in Santa Claus at any point in their life, like I was shocked.
Really?
I had a similar feeling about that to like when I discovered like I had friends who used to believe in God. I was like, no way. Oh shit. That seems wild to me.
And I get that it's religious, like it all stems from the religious history of it, but it's in America and most of the Western world, everybody, oh, it's commercialized. It's like, yeah, it's commercialized, but it's also because like if you don't have something that you do treat seriously, like a tradition like Christmas, like what do you have, right? Like what do you have? Kind of like it's a human need. Like we need to treat some things as sacred. This is what we used to do with religion. We still do it with religion in a lot of the world, but in the Western world, we're much more atheist.
Well, it's just it's joyful.
You get the joy from the tradition, right? Like from the celebrating.
And a sense of meaning.
Right. Oh, you make the fruit cake every year or whatever it is. You bake the cookies every year.
I didn't realize that like fruit cake was like a...
Very English. I don't really like fruit cake, but my wife...
I don't really actually know what Christmas food is, with the exception of like the few things.
We're about to have a Charlie Brown Christmas scenario here where I explain to Sophie what Christmas is all about, right?
I know that there's ham.
The Christmas ham or goose, because this is British, right?
But I see very little distinction between Christmas dinner and Thanksgiving dinner. They sort of like blur together in my mind.
Yeah, they're similar. Very similar. And I think they serve similar purposes. But Christmas is just much more ingrained because Thanksgiving is only an American holiday kind of thing. And then like Christmas...
So like what purpose does green bean casserole serve?
Well, it doesn't like serve. Well, I mean, you could say tradition, I would say. Speaking of which, like I made it this year for Thanksgiving.
Purpose for cream of mushroom soup.
And that's a dish that was, established later, like 40s, 50s era.
Oh yeah. That's why all our parents make it.
Right. Why do we make it every year? Well, because it's not Thanksgiving or Christmas without the green bean casserole, right? Like, would we lose anything? Probably not. But it's just that specialness. It's that little bit of sacred, that in everyday life kind of thing. And I think this is what poetry gets at. And I think this is what a lot of art, literature tries to get at, is that little tiny bit of sacred. That little treasured break that you have in your day where you have like your cigarette and coffee or whatever every day at 10 o'clock or something during your work day, you know? Like, that's almost a religious ritual. Like, that is a ritual that, like, if you didn't do it, everything would seem strange, right? A little off.
I mean,
At least that's my theory on it.
Fucking bad.
Well, that's my theory on it. And it's a little different with coffee and cigarettes because then you're addicted to it, right? It's not like green bean casserole tradition at like Thanksgiving or Christmas.
God, if you have a green bean casserole problem, I'm really sorry for you.
Well, food addiction's a very real thing, so some people might just be, you know, junkies for that green bean casserole, dude. Those French cut green beans.
I mean, I kind of am. It's like one of the things I actually do really like. I'm about it.
It's
I'm
quality.
like pretty.
Always hits the mark, dude. I'm a green bean casserole fan. Yeah. So where do we get at? I don't even remember where the fuck we left off.
I mean, the preface, you know.
The preface. The preface was a little playful, and then like one of the things I noticed about Dickens reading through this right away, the humor, like it was jokes.
I feel like that stood out to you more than it stood out to me.
So like Marley was dead to begin with. The very first line of the story, right? There is no doubt whatever about that is the next line. And then the next paragraph, right, when after he's explaining what dead as a doornail, what he means by that. Mind, I don't mean to say that I know of my own knowledge what there is particularly dead about a doornail. I might have been inclined myself to regard a coffin nail as the deadest piece of ironmongery in the trade, but the wisdom of our ancestors is in the simile, and my unhallowed hand shall not disturb it, or the country's done for. You will therefore permit me to repeat emphatically that Marley was as dead as a doornail. Scrooge knew he was dead? Of course he did. So I just think there's this, you said playful already, like there is this kind of whimsy or playful aspect. It's kind of I haven't read all Dickens stuff. I assume it's kind of in all of his stuff. There's like a type of humor that a lot of these guys, I think, really kind of get out of Shakespeare. They all love Shakespeare. That just works.
I mean, he references Hamlet in the first page, like really early on.
Yeah. References to other, and that's more the literary stuff, right? Making references to works and all that kind of stuff. But I liked the humor in it, and like Sophie said, it gives it a kind of level of whimsical kind of, you know, it's a fictional story, sure. Christmas itself is, we could argue, is a fiction, a myth, right? These things, but there's just something about it. Time to pretend, I don't know. I always think of that Muppets Christmas Carol song, dude, the opening fucking song in Muppets Christmas Carol. Gonzo comes on, he says the line, right? Marley was dead to begin with. Like, he says the line, and then the music kicks up, right? He's with Rizzo the Rat, and then they have, you know, Michael Caine walking through the streets of London, and they're all singing that song, right? Scrooge. One of the better songs in that version. It just, like, talks about how Scrooge is miserable, blah, blah, interrupted with narration directly from the book. With Gonzo doing in like his weird voice and shit in the Muppets, but like these other versions of this, like with the music, I will say the Muppets music is some of the best music I've seen in a few of these versions, but I'll let listeners know once I go through a bunch of these movie adaptations and see for myself, address the scores and all that. But,
yeah, but we learn that if you die and you're a bad boy, you
naughty.
carry a big chain.
These chains I forged in life. Yeah. And then that's a great fucking song in the Muppets version too, when they have the Marley song. It's one of the most famous. Were Marley and Marley, because they have the two peanut gallery guys that always like do it together, so they make Marley 2, They make like two characters in the Muppet version, but that's a great little song. We're Marley and Marley. You're doomed, Scrooge, doomed for all time. Oh yeah.
So did it, I mean, how did you feel about it by compared to, you know, what you were familiar with before? I mean, are there particular moments that surprised you in the book? Because, I mean, nothing really surprised me. I found it to be largely an easy, like I said, like, you know, it's a pleasant read. But yeah, you're not, there's nothing that like stood out as like, oh, that was different.
No, I know because, like you said, I'd known the story so well because I'd just been blasted into my face since I was a kid growing up in America. Since, you know, I was born in the late 80s and all that shit, and it's just been part of American lore. But no, I did recognize a lot of lines because a lot of these adaptations, even the children's ones, use exact lines from the book. The ending is a little changed up sometimes in some of these versions. This one is a little more, not graphic, but like you see the dead body and the stuff of Scrooge in the book that you don't see in a lot of the adaptations. They just
which
go
you
right
only
to,
kind of, you know.
yeah, because he doesn't recognize it either. It's just we know
Well,
there's
and
a body
it's
on
covered
the
in a
bed.
sheet,
Yeah,
right? Isn't it? It's like
Yeah.
covered by a sheet, so we don't actually see it. We just know he's dead there and that it's him.
and like we know that it's him because we know the story. But if I was reading this for the first time to know the story, it's a
I
little
think
bit
it's
of
heavily. I think it's heavily.
It's
enough
implied, sure, yeah.
that it would maybe be surprising to like a much younger person, but yeah, I think it's too heavily implied to be much of a shock. I think it's only a surprise to Scrooge, and I think it's only supposed to be a surprise to Scrooge.
But yeah, I still liked it because, like I said, I was filled with nostalgia and joy almost every time I picked it up to read over the course. I read it in about 2 days. It's very short. And I liked it. And the exact lines, like this, when the nephew comes in, page 4, we have the nephew showing up already in Scrooge's office. Everybody knows this because it's a famous scene in all the adaptations. Christmas a humbug, uncle, said Scrooge's nephew. You don't mean that, I'm sure. I do, said Scrooge. Merry Christmas? What right have you to be merry? What reason have you to be merry? You're poor enough. There we go with the class thing, right? Come then, returned the nephew gaily. What right have you to be dismal? What reason have you to be morose? You're rich enough. Scrooge, having no better answer ready on the spur of the moment, said bah again and followed it up with humbug. This, you know, Scrooge, it's this kind of like, yeah, like what is the point of Christmas? This is like a kind of archetype of Christmas story. It's in the Charlie Brown Christmas special. It's in It's a Wonderful Life. It's in A Christmas Carol. It's in kind of the overall arc, like story of Jesus being born and all that kind of shit too. I don't want to get into the Christian lore so much, but yeah. Every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled with his own pudding and buried with a stake of holly through his heart, he should. Stake of holly. That's a little bit more graphic than a lot of the movie adaptations put it in there. Stake of holly through his heart. And the fact that they use Scrooge's lines back at him, the ghosts say that his own words back to him often when he's doing his redemption arc thing. And it is this kind of like facing yourself aspect to it. This is the same thing in It's a Wonderful Life. This is the same thing in It's a Charlie Brown Christmas, right? All these different famous Christmas, even How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Let's listen. How the Grinch, what is that? That's A Christmas Carol. It's the same fucking thing, right? Like, it's this archetype around this very Christian tradition kind of thing. And it's become less Christian again over the last 100 years or so, but it's like that's where it stems from. These kind of traditions that are like traditions that we don't even know where they come from, or a lot of people don't even realize the like longer tradition. Those are the best kind, right? The ones that are just like expected. They've become so ingrained into the culture that they're just like a part of it every year. But yeah, I don't know. The class elements, whatever, we know those. A lot of lines I knew. Do you want to talk reputation? We mentioned
I
a
wanted
little
to say
already.
the images of the ghosts. What did you think about that? Like how they were described?
A lot of times I was projecting images that I'd seen. So I was projecting like Muppet interpretations of the ghosts, dude, with the Christmas present ghost and all that. The Christmas Past was a little weird description.
It is a weird description. That
And
one
that's the weirdest ghost in a lot of the
couldn't
adaptations too. Yeah.
visual. It's the hat thing.
Yeah.
It's the cap.
And they eliminate the cap in the again. I guess I keep going back to the Muppet version because that's the one I watch.
They don't eliminate it in the. I guess it's like the '80s version.
Oh, did you watch that?
I watched some of it. I got
What,
bored and I turned it off.
It was in the '80s. You said.
Yeah.
Made for TV or?
I don't know. It was just like available on Prime or something.
Right.
I put it on and it was okay. Like the beginning was okay and I quickly got pretty bored. I mean, I had also just read it and I was like, yeah, I know what happens. Like, and it was so not different. You know, even down to sort of the
do it word for
descriptions
word.
of the ghosts, it was like it tried really hard to stay, I think, to the book.
And as I discussed on our Dracula episodes,
what's the one with the
that could
claw
be good or bad.
that's like hanging out of the road? Is
That's the ghost
future?
of past. Past.
That's
yeah,
past?
future. You're right. Yeah, it's future. The future is the one that doesn't speak
Or
and just
present?
like pokes. It's the future. Yeah. You're right. Present is the big jolly guy. Past is like the little like hat and the like weird looking baby face ghost, and then like the future is like the Undertaker, like Grim Reaper style ghost that doesn't speak and just points with like clawed hands, like dead hands.
The thing that gets me is that he turns into like such a little boy when he is taken to the past, and then when he comes out of it at the very end. So like you know, in Christmas Past, when he's taken to see like all these visions of like his former life,
Yeah.
you know, he's like, oh, there's that person. Oh, is this where I apprenticed? You know, and he's like all excited.
And there's that lost love. It's a very small scene in the novel. It's a very small scene in a lot of the movies. But the fact that they show a Scrooge, how, like, he loved a woman and it never worked out, right? She left him because
he became obsessed with money.
Yeah, he loved money more than anything else type thing. And, well, so it adds a little bit of this layer.
And because she was poor.
Yeah.
And it goes back to all that shit that he said to his nephew. Right.
Yeah.
And it's basically the same thing that his would have been, his would-be wife had said to him, would you even marry a dowerless, or a dower? Is it a dower? A dowager?
Well, like a dowry is what you would pay
a dowry.
to marry a woman back in the day. A lot of
Yeah.
cultures still do this. Anybody watches 90 Day Fiancé, you see all like the immigrants from Africa and shit. They're like, if you want to marry, so you have to like pay them a dowry and shit, like buy a cow for their family. At least that's what 90 Day Fiancé depicts. So it's like, like old world shit.
Yeah, but there's this whole like, you know, it's just like a total 180. He's a new man now, you know.
Yeah.
He goes from being like a grump to, okay, now he's kind of scared by these ghosts. Oh, well, now he's like super nostalgic and he's remembering his past life.
But do you think that's unearned, like his redemption arc?
No, I don't think it's unearned. I just think it's
Yeah.
like, okay. Like, you know, I get what it is.
You're tired of the story, the redemption story for around Christmas?
It's just, I feel like I've gotten all of it that I can get, you know, at this level without much more depth. Like, it's just like, and this is the story of why you should be not a shitty person.
Well, there is this level in our culture right now, I think, of they doesn't like redemption. That everybody's the worst things, the worst mistakes you've made define you, and you're not allowed to be redeemed.
It's not that it's redemption, it's that he's like a different guy.
Changed,
you know?
yeah. Character
But
change.
it's not, it's like massive.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, but I think that also adds to the humor of it, right? Like that's sort of one of the funny aspects, and that's one of the things that makes it good for kids. Is that he is all like giggly and like all of a sudden he just like can't hold back laughing and he's just thrilled at everything.
And I think he's thrilled to be alive. They put it because after that, when he sees
Well, because
that
he
his
just
own
saw
death-
himself dead.
Yeah.
Like, he just saw
Yeah.
his own dead body.
And this gets the It's a Wonderful Life thing too, right? Where it's like he saw that he died and nobody cared.
No one gave
He
a
didn't
fuck.
matter at all. In fact, people were happy that he died because he was such a miserable person. Everybody, miserable people spread misery, right? Miserable people spread misery for others. They don't like happy people and stuff. And that's basically what Scrooge is, right? He's a miserable person and he spreads misery. He hates people saying Merry Christmas to him on the street. People smiling and singing Christmas carols on the street, right? Like, I guess that doesn't really happen that much anymore, like Christmas caroling, but I like caroling.
But he
I
also
the
is like
Christmas carols.
content being miserable for the first, for our first meeting of Scrooge. Like, he's
Right.
miserable, but he's like content. He's like, I eat gruel.
But I guess it shows that he isn't content though, right? Like that,
Yeah, I mean, I guess he just kind of.
actually when he thinks about it and like the woman that he loved, that he lost, his
Oh,
family.
yeah, he's super sad when he
his-
sees it, when he's
yeah.
confronted with it. But as long as he doesn't have to look at it, I don't know.
Which is most people. That's human. Yeah. But like the redemption story, I like that. Reputation. You want to talk reputation?
Yeah, tell me about it.
Well, I've said it before in the beginning of this when we started. I mean, this is the most famous Christmas story apart from the literal Jesus, birth of Jesus story that Christmas is based around since Christians took over the world. All right, it's like 2,000 years ago. But yeah, I'd say this reputation, it is so huge. And I mean, I would say it's deserved. I mean, is there a better Christmas story than this one?
Couldn't tell you. You gotta tell me, man. I mean,
Well, I would say
supposedly it's a
no.
Wonderful Life.
It's a Wonderful Life is very good, but like I said, it's almost the same thing.
Yeah.
This kind of redemption around Christmas time. And a lot of Christmas stories are this, but yeah, I would say It's a Wonderful Life is up there, but it's much newer. It's about not even 100 years old. This one's almost 200 years old. Yeah, it is the most famous. I mean, I never reading it before and reading it now. I'm like, okay, it makes sense that this is. It's creative, dude. Like it's.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun, right? Especially for somebody who is like famous for giving live readings all the time. Right? Like, I'm sure it was fun,
Yeah, there's this section in the back of the book here where it talks about Dickens giving readings of this throughout his career. And he was supposedly known, it says in these little essays in the back here, listeners can look into it if they want, that he was known, Dickens, as being a very, entertaining reader of his stuff. He had a reputation for just, going all out, giving a show when he gave a reading about his books, especially this one around Christmas time, because it got so big that, the reputation happened almost immediately, and he was already kind of a literary star. The reputation got put underneath the book right away, and every year he was basically being asked, to go read it in New York or London or, some big city and
Yeah.
give a little reception for Christmas and like a reading. And it's a short book, so you could read the whole thing in a couple hours. If somebody were to read sections of it or the whole thing even at like a show. Yeah. And I say that all the time. Do we talk about in this podcast? The reason most readings suck is because most of the time the person reading is boring as fuck and is terrified and like
It's because they're
very-
just reading.
yeah, and very fearfully reads their own words to the crowd and stuff like that, like is embarrassed by it, and clearly Dickens had a vote, like didn't give a fuck about that, like and just like would read it with some entertainment, some zest, some pizzazz behind it, throw a little emphasis into the exclamation points if they're on the page. Ooh, the cover. Yeah, the cover is like, it's very British. That Tiny Tim, dude. So he's
dude.
showing like a close-up of it.
Tiny Tim looks like a girl.
God bless us, everyone.
His little dress. And his little Mary Janes.
And they do make Tiny Tim this kind of like bleeding heart, right? When he's introduced in like Tiny Tim,
Tiny Tim.
we learn that he's so pure of heart, like right away.
Because
that
he's so little.
Well, that, and he's disabled, right? He has that like bad leg. He's probably gonna die because I guess it would be polio or something at the time, like some type of disease that he was clearly had or deformity. that made him sick and feeble and a little tiny kid, too small for his age. He limped with a crutch. And the first thing that like we learn about him is that his father, Bob Cratchit, almost in tears, is telling his wife, when we were in church, he said he hoped that people saw him, right? So that they would be reminded on this day of who made, lame beggars walk and blind men see is the line. But, and it's just this like noble kind of pure of heart thing. Like, who is that given that rough of a hand, right? Like, you have this terrible, you're handicapped, you're poor as shit, you really have everything against you, like a Tiny Tim character, and yet you're so pure of heart, like you still are seeing the bright side of things. You think that you can still bring joy. Most people can't do that, right? Most people are not even capable of holding those thoughts in their head together. It's usually a lot of pity, self-pity, and Tiny Tim is this pure of heart guy that never pities himself, that Scrooge pities him more than anybody else, right? Like, as he sees, this poor sick kid who Scrooge's life directly involves because his father works for him, right? Like, he pays for the kid. The kid can't afford medical care. He can't afford the proper food and like the proper leg braces and shit because Scrooge fucks his father with how little he pays him. And so you're seeing these things that Scrooge directly impacts, right? So he's a finance guy in London. He directly impacts a lot of finance businesses. And we learn in the last section with that ghost, they all hate him, right? He's a miserable person. They hate him. We learn his nephew and stuff and Bob Cratchit, like all these people he directly affects right away. And then in the past, we see like all the people that he affected throughout his life, like all
and
the
people
things
that he loved too,
that he
and
loved
like
and that
people,
loved him.
Like his sister was the thing I think that maybe stood out to me.
Yeah.
The most that maybe I didn't like was not something that I remembered from any of the, because I haven't watched any single version of A Christmas Carol in a very, very long time. This is my first time reading it. And when we get the scene with his sister, who we know is now dead and also the mother of the nephew we see him being shitty to in the very beginning, is like, I guess, his little sister.
Yeah.
Who and he's like, he was like sent to boarding school or some shit, and like he I guess had a stronger sense of kinship with his sister. And
they imply that she died of some sickness or something, which was very common, right? But
I think there is this like urge in me to like have more, like, oh, I want more character, and like that's not really what this story is about.
Well, the sister especially is only like a paragraph or two, and it just kind of explains where the nephew comes in to like his only family left at this point is the nephew, his sister's son.
Yeah, well, and his whole
he
family.
rejects that too, right? Even though the nephew is so welcoming and invites him to Christmas dinner and tells him to come over and spend time with his wife and their friends and family, and he refuses, right? All that kind of shit.
Yeah. So you see that. We see the Cratchits. Then that one is in Christmas Present. Right.
Well, and like the first instance of the supernatural is on page 10, where we see Marley's face in the door knocker.
Yeah.
We introduce Scrooge. He has the interaction with his nephew. He has the interaction with that guy asking for Christmas donations for, like a Red Cross type foundation to help the poor. And Scrooge blows them all off, and he goes to his house, and the first thing he sees is the door knocker turns into Marley's face, and he kind of freaks out for a minute.
Yeah.
And then, just like, oh, humbug, fuck this, it's not real kind of thing. But it's like this first little creeping instance of a ghost there in that page 10. Scrooge, having his key in the lock of the door, saw in the knocker, without its undergoing any intermediate process of change, not a knocker, but Marley's face. Marley's face. It was not impenetrable shadow as the other objects in the yard were, but had a dismal light about it, like a bad lobster in a dark cellar. Bad lobster in a dark cellar.
Yeah.
And then then Marley appears to him later on, and we get like the jokes. Like the jokes, I think, keep coming with like when he first sees Marley and the ghost, he's like seeing him and he's like see-through, right, in his like chambers. And there's this thing at the bottom of page 13. It's actually its own little offset paragraph, a single sentence. It says, Bottom of page 13. Scrooge had often heard it said that Marley had no bowels, but he had never believed it until now. Like this kind of jokes that just keep coming as he's getting haunted, like Dickens's style. I liked it.
Yeah. I mean, it was fun. Again, I think there was a sense of a little bit of boredom for me just because you're reading to an ending that you know. And there's not, like, again, there's not a whole lot in here to forget either.
Yeah, because it's short, it's concise, very well done story. Because let's say he added 50 pages to this and made it a shorter novel, like, 150 page, kind of the bare minimum length for a novel. Would it have been really much better, right? Would it have really improved anything? Yeah. Probably not. So, I mean, like this kind of shorter novella thing really worked. Because I don't want to dwell too much on plot points because everybody knows this fucking story, right? But I kept obsessing over this, and I've already mentioned it a few. What is it about Christmas? What is it about Christmas that they call it the spirit of Christmas, for lack of a better term, right? We call it the spirit of Christmas or something,
Yeah, what the fuck is it? I think it's all of it, I mean, at least for us, like, as somebody who had nothing about, like, the tradition, it's just, like, a sense of coziness. I mean, it's, like, all of the things that come with, obviously, we talked about the lights. That's a big part of it for me.
Sense of
celebration. Yeah, like, the sense of, like, you're all stuck inside. Like, you're cozy. You're fucking drinking cocoa. It's like there's a general warmth about it in spite of all of the cold.
And that's why I was going on these kind of like the idea of tradition, like this idea of like the things that we expect around the time, like these things of tradition or rituals, we'd kind of dismiss them as unimportant now, but there's something about these rituals.
Well, it's also like it's so much darker, right? Shit's dead. No one's outside. It's dark. It's quiet. Like, we have to make up for that somehow.
And in London, where this takes place, there would probably be snow on the ground everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's all that. Fires.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the general sense of community when you push everyone inside, right?
That and but the sense of generosity, right? The sense of giving.
There's also that.
The sense of
again, that's something that's there, but again, not as present for me in my upbringing.
Yeah, there was no magic man that brought presents down a chimney.
Yeah,
there was just like, you must suffer. Remember the suffering.
Remember the suffering. And like my parents would like, hide some presents around the living room, and that was fun.
Yeah.
But like I knew it was my parents. It wasn't like magical. It wasn't.
Right.
It was exciting. Like, I mean, I think that was probably
the excitement. Yeah, the nostalgia that's generated from that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is actually a lot of it. Like, I think so much of it is just the excitement that we feel as children knowing that we're going to get presents. And that just continues.
But there's tradition in that too, right? Like, I remember you telling me about, like, do you read the story of the oil lamp, right? Like, do you do that every year?
Fuck no.
No? Like, not, like, sit around the table or whatever and read the passage of the 7 days or the 8 days, right? With the oil burned for 8 days.
Nope. We know the story. We acknowledge the story. We have moved on.
But like, there's like that sense of like, the night before Christmas, the famous poem, right? Like, none of that with
none of that. No. Sometimes we would watch Fiddler. But we would also watch that around Passover too, so it wasn't like specific to this holiday,
That and yeah, and I guess like the traditions too. Like Sophie and I've been friends for a while. You always said like, okay, like Chinese food and going to a movie, right, is like kind of like a Jewish tradition around Christmas because everything's fucking closed except the Chinese restaurants and like a movie theater because they're like. Mm-hmm. Type thing. So it became a tradition for a lot of families in America during that holiday.
But even that.
But that's not like a nostalgic. It's not like a nostalgia thing.
That's
Or it
just
could
like,
be.
Oh.
It could be nostalgic.
I mean, I'm sure it is for plenty of people.
Like that's how we celebrate Christmas.
My
or
family
whatever,
got
right?
Chinese food a lot, so there's
Well,
no
mine too.
like, there's
Yeah.
no specific like, oh yeah, all those times
Dude.
we got Chinese on the holiday.
Oh, dude. I mean, Americans love Chinese food, dude. Yeah. At least the Americanized version. Yeah. I eat it all the time, dude. I love it. Plus, I live in the place where literally you get the best Thai food in America in this fucking city I live in. So,
I'd eat the shit out of some Chinese food right now.
yeah.
I ate fried chicken right before this too.
Nice.
It's fucked up. It's like I'm gonna do good today. I'm gonna eat some vegetables. I went and got Bill a sandwich. I went and got my husband a sandwich. I'm just gonna keep saying his fucking name, whatever. And I was like looking for something for myself, and I walked past all this fried chicken. I was like, well, it's done for me now.
It can
So
count
what's
as a
happening?
vegetable sometimes, dude.
Oh, dude, it was so greasy, it was wet.
Yeah. Nice, dude. Was it Rofo chicken or was it?
Nah. It was Eddie's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Both are mid-Atlantic lore things, so you only know about those stores if you're like in the mid-Atlantic area there. So, yeah. Still cool.
Eddie's is just Baltimore, probably.
Yeah, it's literally just both. There's only like 2 locations, like a
Yeah.
small. But then Rofo, I think it's
No, that's probably more.
it's more
more
Maryland, but
Atlantic.
they've expanded into like Carolina
Really?
and Pennsylvania and places, I think. Yeah.
I'm sure Pennsylvania.
But that's only been like the last like 10, 20 years.
I just
so,
assumed Mid-Atlantic and maybe North.
yeah, I don't know. It was mostly like a Baltimore or like Maryland based company, and now it's been like
So
branching
good.
out. Yeah.
So good. I don't care what anyone says. It's still better than Sheets.
Royal Farms, yeah.
Yeah.
Sheets is like the bastardized version, yeah. And then
I remember when I was in Philly, it was Wawa. Everyone was about Wawa.
Wawa had come to, by the time we were kids, like Wawa was around in Maryland and stuff.
Yeah, but it wasn't like.
But it
It
is
wasn't the
still
spot.
regional. For some reason, there's
Yeah.
some in Florida, but there really aren't many. Like living out where I live, like there are no Wawas on the highways. There's none around here. You switch to like, Buc-ee's when I was in the South. Buc-ee's is pretty good.
Buc-ee's.
But those that don't know, Royal Farms is like that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Not as big as Buc-ee's or anything, but it's more like a Wawa.
Like, I mean, it's basically a nicer 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
Like, that's. I mean,
Which
I
is
guess there are people who
Wawa,
probably
yeah.
also don't know what 7-Eleven is, but I feel like you're more likely.
7-Eleven's more national and then probably international too, but yeah, because like we have 7-Elevens here, although we didn't have any in the South, like where I lived
Yeah.
in the South there. But we have.
Yeah,
them out here.
I don't remember seeing 7-Elevens in Kentucky.
Yeah, like they're very regional. It's weird. I don't know how they do that, but whatever.
They got like their own shit. They just all have Speedway. Speedway's
But I was-
everywhere.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this kind of like, what is it about Christmas? And I was thinking, yeah, we said food. I said, but I'm nostalgic and I really enjoy Christmas packaging on products.
Oh,
I really
yeah.
enjoy Christmas
Well,
advertising.
it's
Coca-Cola's
it's-
probably the king.
That's what I mean. It's
of
all that
but
shit. It's just all of that
Yeah.
shit.
It's the most wonderful
Like, I mean, even as like a little
time.
Jewish girl, I remember I had like a Madeline doll, and I had like the Christmas version. I
The
was like,
Madeline
"Ooh,
Christmas. Was that one of your
sparkly."
favorites?
I mean,
Madeline
I liked.
Christmas? The
I mean,
movie?
I don't know. I had the books.
But did you, the movie, like the TV version, it's like 25-minute Madeline Christmas.
Oh, I don't remember.
That was one
I
of my
remember
favorites
like
growing up. Yeah.
because I remember like Madeline's Rescue, and I like remember the original. In fact, I think I still have Madeline's Rescue.
Madeline's Christmas was one of my favorites. I would watch it with my sister.
But yeah, I
every year.
had the Christmas doll. My sister had the original doll.
We're going home for the holidays. Like that's the song from
Yeah.
like the Madeline because
I feel like I do remember that.
or
Yeah.
the boarding school kids. Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember.
And then they
that.
have like the magic woman that brings like the bread over.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and she's like, yeah,
Oh yeah.
and they all get sick for the holidays. Everybody likes that movie. I like that movie. There's some good songs. But yeah, there's just something about it. Like these I'm like the packaging, the advertisements, the Coca-Cola Santa Claus, the Coca-Cola
it's
bear.
the whole atmosphere of it. It's like because
But like, what is that? You know, like I'm trying to. I mean, I know that we're going to come up with an answer on this fucking podcast, but I just mean like the question. I
red
just
and
keep begging the
green.
question. Yeah, red and green. Yeah.
You know, it's just, I mean, fucking, it's the sounds, it's the smells, it's the flavors, it's like all of these seasonal things.
That remind
Right.
us of the spirit. This thing that we can't touch. We can't even like Sophie and I can't even say what it is. Like we don't know. Like we
Yeah.
can't even fucking articulate it. But all these things add up to this little feeling inside of it. Maybe just a tiny feeling of it. Maybe a large feeling for some. But I don't know. But there's just something about the way that we've had Christmas kind of as a tradition for so many years that like it's been enveloped into every aspect of our culture that I enjoy. I started listening to Christmas. My wife and I put our tree up. We were like putting on Christmas music. I put on Charlie Brown Christmas. For some reason, and now because of Charlie Brown Christmas, I always associate this type of jazz with like this kind of like with Christmas because of the Vince Guaraldi trio music. And it's
I mean, I even remember like, you know, like visiting like my grandma in New York, you know, and going to see the tree and like going ice skating and like all of that shit. I also especially like I can see like for my parents why they'd be really nostalgic about it too, just because they grew up in New York.
It's a big deal. Yeah, we do the community trees. We do the community light projects. You know, Sophie and I grew up in Baltimore. There's I mean, this is almost every city, but there's a famous street in Baltimore on 34th Street, like the movie Miracle on 34th Street, where they do, basically if you move into that neighborhood in Baltimore, you basically
You're
are
signing up.
you're signing a contract where it's like you have to take Christmas decorations very seriously.
Very seriously. And I mean, like, you might break your neck seriously.
Right.
Like,
And they string the lights from house to house across the street. So you're like, it's like a group effort with like neighbors. You have to like combine.
And you've probably seen this in your city or like, you know.
Yeah, I think every city has, and it's usually 34th Street because of the movie and the legend around it. So like they'll do something like that. And it's a big thing. I remember as a kid
it was
driving
awesome.
through that.
And they would hand out like hot cocoa and shit. I don't know if they do all
exactly.
that anymore.
They did back in the
do.
90s before like this scare of like you're going to be poisoned by your
Yeah,
Halloween candy and like all that kind of shit.
They're putting razors in the candy.
Yeah. They're putting like drugs in the
They're
candy.
going to
and
drug
stuff.
your kids.
Yeah. But
People
it used
started
to be
giving
like
out pennies.
Yeah, pennies or like grocery store
bullshit.
cookies, like whatever.
That
it
was
is.
such bullshit. No one wanted your grocery store cookies. That was also bullshit.
I mean, for Christmas time.
Yeah, bullshit.
Yeah, but yeah, you know, and that's like a big tradition. So like, if 1 year, let's say, they didn't do that on 34th Street, like there would be fucking upheaval. Like people would be pissed.
And the alcohol, dude. It's like a
eggnog.
constant
Yeah.
excuse to be like drunk for just like 25 days.
Yeah, and people would literally like. I remember waiting in the car. We would drive through that street, and my parents taking me every year when I was little, and we would go down there, and I couldn't wait to see how bright that fucking block, just that one block of Baltimore City was so fucking
That's
bright,
small.
dude. And like, yeah, it's very small. It's one block, like,
Yeah.
but it's that 34th Street block where you're just like lights strung across from the houses. You're like in a winter wonderland. You're underneath the lights. They're over top of you. There's the famous hubcap tree is the one big thing that somebody made a tree out of hubcaps in like the 50s and they've just been doing it ever since down in the 34th Street celebration. New York, like Sophie said, the tree lighting is a big deal. It's almost up there with the New Year's Eve thing where you go see the tree get lit up this year, like kind of thing.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be like go see it, get lit up. It could just be like go see the fucking tree. You know?
How massive it is, how
Go
big.
ice
Yeah,
skating,
right. It takes up
know?
this huge space, this central space in New York, like this. Yeah, and honestly, there is.
Well, and you know, and cities, it's just like lights everywhere. Especially if like your city does it well. You know, they put up lights downtown.
There's actually a story when I was driving through Louisiana, and I was actually driving through bumfuck Louisiana into bumfuck Texas, because the GPS was taking us around Houston to avoid traffic. So I was driving at like 2 a.m. And through like the dark rural part of Texas, East Texas, you know, probably a little bit north of Houston, and it was like in the middle of nowhere in December. My wife and I were on this one highway, you know, 2-lane, you know, Texas road, and out of nowhere, this house that took lighting very seriously, like a rural house, had like this winter wonderland set up. Like it was just lights in the middle of this dark rural area, and they had it so that you could pull off and walk through it. It was like literally like they did it for the public to like walk through this light show.
That's
and my
awesome.
wife and I pulled over, and there were a couple other cars like pulling over. It's like 2 a.m. Like there's like, and there's nothing but these bright, beautiful lights in the middle of this black, you know, Texas night. And it was just, you know, it was 2 a.m. We were just driving through, and we stopped. It made us stop and just look at these lights. Like, look at how great this is. Take pictures, you know, whatever it is. Now we all have phones. There was just something about it. Like, man, that person put in that effort, and it looks good. Like, you know, I don't know. Something about it. Something that draws us to this. Maybe it is just very basic human psychology, like shiny things, you know, like, or
yeah, I mean, I think it's all that shit that makes us happy, and just like enough people say yes to it. It's like, yeah, everyone's gonna, like, enough people have just like said, yes, we are doing this, and now it's like a group thing.
Right. The collective.
And
That's a very good point.
It gives you a sense of community. I mean, it's the same thing with like, yeah, we're all pushed inside. Like, yeah, you can't sit outside at Starbucks and like sit there and work. And that's something like I do, right? Like
Starbucks Christmas cups. Yeah.
And fucking sit outside and Starbucks fucking flavors, dude.
Right. The flavors, yes.
Putting peppermint and everything. It's great. I love it.
But the collective. You're right. Like the collective.
Yeah. I mean,
like,
that's what it is. You're pushed closer to other people.
And this is why I got at the tradition too, because not just collective. So, okay, I could be in Baltimore City on 34th Street. I could be in rural bumfuck Texas driving on a 2-lane highway and see the same collective energy. People putting up it's everywhere. I could go to Europe. I could go to France. I could go to England, and they're doing the same collective energy around this time.
Well, like, yeah, and there's a sense of this is for everyone.
Right.
Right.
And it's a
like you put up lights.
Thing. Yeah.
Because everyone likes it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I am so glad that my fucking neighbors put up lights. Like, in our building, we make up, like, the sort of front 3 apartments, like, on the first floor. And, like, right in the middle of the building. So, like, we're facing the street. And my neighbors, every year, they put up Christmas lights. This time they put up lights where I would normally wrap mine if they didn't. And I'm kind of grateful that they did because I suck at it. I have 0 practice with this. I'm very bad.
Yeah.
But
I don't know, dude. You're playing into stereotypes. I mean, dude, the Jew not knowing how to set up Christmas lights.
I mean, I don't. But it's also like
it's a joke.
I get it, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, yeah, this isn't something like I thought. Like, if there's a technique, I don't know it.
It does take practice. It's like the way you do it. But like, yeah, I used to do it with my dad. It was always a very big thing. My dad worked a lot when I was a kid. And then like when we had time to set up the Christmas lights, and I was the older son, so I could help him climb the ladder and things like that.
Shit,
and I could help.
Serious.
Yeah, like I could do that kind of stuff from a younger age because I was like the older son there helping him, do the yard work and things like that. So when it came around Christmas time, you do like the light work and you have to put the lights up, and it's a pain in the ass, and you have to like be careful how you put them away and like all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But speaking of all this, sorry.
Yeah, no, you
Page
go.
33. Since we're talking about this nostalgia, and this is when Scrooge is with the ghost of Christmas past, and he's watching the people at Fezziwig's Christmas party that he has every year. So his original
Fezziwig is where he apprenticed.
Yeah, so like
correct.
This, yeah. So like when he was a young guy, young clerk, he apprenticed there, and it really made a huge impact on his life, type thing. But he had forgotten about it. So anyway, they're saying this, and they're doing this whole scene where everybody's celebrating and getting ready for the party, and everybody's broken in and they're dancing and singing, and it's a great time. And Scrooge and the ghost are watching. I want to read this part here on page 33. It says, during the whole of this time, Scrooge had acted like a man out of his wits. His heart and soul were in the scene, and with his former self. He corroborated everything, remembered everything, enjoyed everything, and underwent the strangest agitation. It was not until now, when the bright faces of his former self and Dick were turned from them, that he remembered the ghost, and became conscious that it was looking full upon him, while the light upon his head burnt very clear. And the ghost says to him, "A small matter," said the ghost, "to make these silly folks so full of gratitude." And that's when I was just like, yeah, like I think that if I could put my finger on something as a why Christmas, what is it about Christmas? I think that a small matter, said the ghost, to make these silly folks so full of gratitude. Like, and I think that's it. Like, it's not so much Christmas itself. It's that this little collective thing that brings everybody around to have drinks and dance and sing and play music.
Yeah. I mean, even
that
at the
fills
end,
us up. It fills us up. It's that intangible thing we're all searching for. That fucking man's search for meaning, dude. Like this fucking like.
Yeah. Well, there's this line at the end, even right after he comes out of it, and this is like at the very end where he is like, so he's gone through it all. He's seen his past, he's seen his present, where we know that like people actually don't care for him very much, and including the Cratchits and including his nephew and his niece and their family. He comes out and he wants to buy the turkey for
the prize-winning turkey, the biggest turkey the butcher has
for the Cratchits, and he's talking to this boy.
You there, good boy.
Intelligent boy. Remarkable boy.
Yeah. What page is this?
81.
81, okay.
And it's a really, really short line, but it made me think of this. And he says, "What a delightful boy," said Scrooge. "It's a pleasure to talk to him. Yes, my buck." Then he says, it's a pleasure to talk to him. Right? And they're just talking about buying a turkey. If this were a different kind of book, I'd be like, oh, it's a pleasure to talk to him because he's like, what, ordering him around, or he's telling him to go buy something, and it's fun to buy things,
There's that too. Maybe that's a little bit of Christmas.
It feels good to give, but then you can get into that whole clusterfuck of, do you give because it helps other people or because it makes you feel good? And the answer is
true.
Both.
Yeah, exactly. It is. Maybe even if it's selfish, it's a good thing, right?
Yeah, it's always both
for everyone. Yeah. It's true wherever you find love, it feels like Christmas.
But yeah, when he says it's a pleasure to talk to him.
And dude, I mean, it's like the reason I like talking to you about books. Like I like talking to my friends. Like I like talking to strangers.
People want community, right? People crave. I mean, that's why we talk about loneliness as such like a bad thing, and we say that it kills people.
Because it does.
Because it does.
Spiritually, though, right? Like spiritually.
I mean, but also literally, it kills people, right?
I like talk. I'm a talker anyway. People
probably
never pick that up. But it's like, I like it. Like I like meeting people. Like I like to talk to them, and I like to ask. I like to know what they do. I'm like, well, what do you do? What's your life like? Oh, how long you been doing that? Like kind of thing. Like, I want to know. I'm like, oh, what's that like? Like, did you enjoy it? Like how? like. I want to know. I'm just a curious person.
Yeah, man. I mean, even if you're introverted.
And I get so much meaning out of that. Like, I get so much meaning out of just talking to a stranger while I'm waiting in line at the DMV.
Well, fucking everybody does, dude. Yeah. I mean, even if you're, somebody who's, very introverted like me, and you're like, get the fuck away from me, I don't want to talk to you, I have headphones in, back the fuck up off me.
Right.
Yeah, on the off chance that you do end up having, a conversation with somebody... I'm not saying that they're all conversations that I want to be having. You probably know firsthand. I've texted you many times that I've been in a Lyft where the driver was just too chatty.
Dude, I like talking to Lyft drivers.
Yeah, I bet you do.
Especially if they're immigrants. Yeah, especially if they're immigrants, dude. I'm always like, how many languages do you speak? How long have
I
you
always
been
end
here?
up in the car with somebody who wants to talk about politics, or they're like, I'm thinking about running for office. I had one of those guys. I was like, dude, nah.
I've never had politics, although I have had a few airport shuttles where the guy was playing the right wing radio, like the right wing. I was in an airport shuttle around Christmas time, and the guy driving the shuttle had the right wing talk radio on, loud as shit in the shuttle for the airport from the parking lot. And I remember sitting there and be like, oh man, this guy doesn't give a fuck, just playing this Rush Limbaugh into the fucking the shuttle.
Dude.
Yeah, dude, that. When I was sitting there going oh shit, this guy.
The last guy I talked to there have been a couple guys that I really enjoyed. One who was just he had just seen the live action Aladdin movie, and this was one of my longer Lyft rides that I took in Kentucky, Because I was like lifting to where Bill was working at the time to meet up with him to like get a drink or something. And we didn't live very close to it. But this guy would not stop talking about Aladdin. He was like, "It was a good movie, man. I cried."
The Guy Ritchie, the Guy Ritchie Aladdin. Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, Jesus Christ, dude."
I couldn't stand the Guy Ritchie Aladdin personally. But I would be interested to hear somebody that got a lot of joy out of it. I would be interested to hear why and what he thought of it. Yeah, dude, like I do that all, like when I'm interested, like I want to know. Like I've only had like maybe one Lyft or Uber driver be offended by it. But even then, like once we started talking, he kind of understood. Like I was just like,
"Oh, I never started. They always started." And I'm just like, "Yeah, dude. How about that?"
It was like I was drunk and I was in like a Uber. We were crammed full of people. You know, it was like a van Uber that I ordered for everybody. It was after a wedding in San Diego, and this guy picked us up. And I found out, you know, I was talking to him. I was in the front seat because I'm large. So everybody's like, "Well, you get in the front end." I'm okay. Like I'll get in the front seat. And then I start talking to the driver. And we were just chatting, and he was telling me, "Oh, I'm from Iran. Like I've been here this long, you know, blah, blah. I'm driving for Uber." And I was just talking to him like, "Oh, you know, what made you want to come here or whatever, you know?" And he kind of looked at me like a little bit like I would like offended him or something for asking that. But like, I guess he saw in my face that like, it wasn't like, I wasn't like, "What are you doing here?" Like it was like literally, right. Like it was like, I wanted to know like what motivated you to like make this trek, like kind of to like uproot your life and come here. And then we started talking, and, you know, he started telling me about his family, and I was like, yeah, like I like that. I'll never see that guy again in my life, but like, hopefully we had this little bit of talk between each other. It was a pleasure to talk to him. Like, dude, I was waiting in line at the bank the other day. I was talking to this woman. It was a long ass fucking line. Something was going wrong. The computer system's down or something. So everybody was freaking out. And this woman and I were sitting in line, and we just start joking, dude. Like she just starts joking with me, and I start joking back. And then we just start talking for like 45 minutes until we're out at the end of the line. At the end of the line, she turned to me and she was just like, "Well, this is it." And I was just like, "Yeah, I mean, I don't even know your name, but it's been a fucking pleasure." Like, it's been a fucking pleasure waiting in line with you, like joking about how ridiculous this is. Like, and then I'm never going to see her again, probably. I didn't even know her name, but like we started chatting, and I got some connection out of it, and that, you know. And like Sophie said, even if you're introverted, like I'm much more outroverted,
Outroverted,
extroverted, whatever the fuck it is, dude. All these people want to categorize their fucking personalities.
Yeah, dude.
These fucking, well, psychology told me my personality's a little fucked up, so
I'm a Virgo.
Yeah, dude. People love throwing that.
You're a Virgo.
Is that a Virgo trait? Is that why you're throwing that at me, or
no?
No.
What, being a talker?
Yeah.
No. Your obnoxious organization and your general stubbornness, however, are.
Yeah, that's what my wife tells me all the time. Yeah.
She's such a Virgo.
Yeah. She's like, "You're the most Virgo I've ever met in my life." Like.
Yeah, that's probably accurate.
Yeah.
I mean.
And see, I don't even know what they're talking about most of the time when people say that to me. I'm like, "You mean I'm correct?" Sure. I'm like, "You mean I'm correct?"
Literally, that's the most Virgo thing you could say.
Yeah. Like, "You mean I'm correct?" Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, dude. Hold on, let me pee real quick. I only have a few more questions left.
Well, I'm a Libra, in case anyone's wondering. A lazy Libra.
Is that why we get along?
I don't fucking know. Oh man, I was just about to pull up your natal chart for our listeners here. Get you a little natal chart action.
Well, don't give my birthday out, but
no.
You can still talk about it.
No, it's not going to be real anyway, because I don't know your birth time.
I guess I could ask my mother.
You're on a cusp.
My mother knows. She texts me every year on my birthday. She texts me that. Yeah.
You can let me know later, and I'll fill I'll fill everyone in on the next episode.
I think it was early morning. Like 6 a.m., 4 a.m.
That means,
stuff.
Your poor mother.
Yeah.
She didn't even, like, have a day first, you know?
And I was 3 weeks late. She always tells me that, too.
Damn, you were an asshole.
I was supposed to be born on the 6th.
Yeah. Damn.
At least that's, the rough estimate they gave her or whatever. But, yeah.
Virgo.
Yeah. so we talked about that. What is it about Christmas? Scrooge's change.
Yeah. It's abrupt. It's fun, though. It makes sense for something that's like sort of comedic and family friendly.
Well, and it's right after he sees his name on the grave, which is a big famous scene everybody knows from all the different versions, right? Scrooge crept towards it, trembling as he went, and following the finger, read upon the stone of the neglected grave his own name, Ebenezer Scrooge. "Am I that man who lay upon the bed?" he cried, upon his knees. The finger pointed from the grave to him and back again. "No, spirit, oh, no, no." The finger still was there. "Spirit," he cried, tight clutching at its robe, "hear me. I am not the man I was. I will not be the man I must have been but for this intercourse. Why show me this if I am past all hope?" And this is like his moment of like realizing that like he can redeem himself. Like he doesn't, I am not the man I was.
There's an eagerness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am not the man I was. That person's no longer there. Like I'm a new person now.
Yeah, it's abrupt.
But they do justify it by him seeing his own
death. Yeah,
so
they
it works.
do.
Like, yeah.
It does have that sense of, it's a new year.
New me.
I'm a new me. I'm gonna go to the gym.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
I'm gonna go to the gym. Worst time to go to the gym.
Oh, yeah, January. As a regular gym rat, as a Planet Fitness gym person, like that annoying guy that's literally always there and people see me at the same time every day. Yeah, I can confirm January is the time when you see a lot of new faces that you never see again after January kind of thing. Especially at a place like Planet Fitness, which is like the everyman's, like cheap, like the cheap gym. Yeah.
Dude, I wonder what the employee like pep talk is before that. Like, all right, guys, we know it's coming.
So I could ask. I'm friendly with all the employees. Like they see me every day. Like,
so, like, do you guys like prepare for the surge like of new customers?
I know the manager there. I'll talk to her. Melissa. She says hi to me every morning when I walk in there. Yeah.
Well, there you go. You can ask Melissa.
Yeah. It's him or the guy Brian. Those are usually the two that are there when I'm there, like running the front desk at least. I think the one girl's afraid of me that like whenever I say hi, she kind of like averts her eyes type thing, and then the guy just calls me by name. He's like, "Hi, guy. Hey, Andrew." I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" And it's like checking my little fucking scan card. Beep. Okay, you can enter.
Dude, can we just talk about the facial hair of the 19th century?
Oh, I'm glad you brought it up. Let's do it. Talk facial hair.
I mean, well, first of all, let me just pull up an image here. My computer's going to take a minute. So, you know, I mean, and this was like a really fucking bad time for facial hair. It was a really, really bad century all around. Did not play favorites, at least as far as the Western world is concerned. Whether you were in England or you were in the U.S., if you were a man and you grew facial hair, it was probably really, really bad.
Well, you know, no safety razors. There was literally just straight razors. And if you could afford to keep a razor sharp and like shave yourself every day, you were probably wealthy.
Like, I mean, have you ever been to like the Gettysburg Museum?
Oh, yeah, dude, we grew up in Maryland. I've been there. Yeah. I said when you're thinking about like 1800s facial hair, I'm thinking, okay, pictures of presidents, pictures of Civil War generals.
Civil War is what I go to, every time.
Like General Burnside.
Oh, my God. Like the fucking facial hair on some of those
Who is this
soldiers.
guy?
This is Dickens, dude.
Oh, that's Dickens? Dude, that's going to be on our artwork.
That's bad.
That'll be our
The man had bad facial hair.
That'll be our episode artwork. Dickinson's little goatee.
He wasn't particularly ugly either.
Yeah.
But damn,
he was a
that
law clerk.
Beard atrocious, and it was like in a V all the time. Like very frequently, it was like in this weird fucking shape, and I don't understand what is up with that. I don't know if this was like just the look. I don't know if maybe there was just. Like we didn't like people didn't know how to like shape it yet, or if it was just like, no, we're all gonna do like this flying V thing, and it's going to be rad, and the ladies will like it.
I mean, there weren't clippers to shape it. There were not safety razors. It was straight razors all the way. So if you wanted to do like a weird design or like a little soul patch, like you needed a barber to cut that in for you.
Yeah, but this
unless you
isn't
did it
like a little
yourself.
design. This is just like I grew it out and I decided that I'm going to part it down the middle like a whale tail.
Little bow tie beard, dude.
It's like the reverse of like
Right.
a woman doing a whale tail with a thong.
Oh,
It's that, but of the face.
we're pro whale tails on this podcast, dude. At least
I mean,
am. Yeah.
of course,
Sophie
always.
is not. Yeah.
No, of course I am. Always.
Pro
Bring it
whale
back.
tails, yeah.
I mean, not low-rise jeans. You got to figure out a better way. You got to make it work with different pants. That's my only request.
We'll take it. Flap that whale tail.
Yeah, so facial hair. That was good. Enjoyed that. He didn't quite go bald either.
My last thing.
He kind of did, I guess.
Oh, dude, men.
Look at that comb over. Now that I'm looking at it, looks pretty comb over-ish.
Yeah, it looks like most men, where you start to recede. And I guess this was before the time when if you were wealthy, you could get hair plugs. But
Yeah, he's definitely bald under that flap of hair on top, dude. Or at least
Yeah.
behind it, for sure.
looks like the couple of those pictures, it looks like the hat clearly matted it down. But then that last one you sent me, it looks like it's more styled for a photograph. Like like he wasn't wearing a hat beforehand. You can see that it's very much receded, almost to the halfway on the sides there.
Yeah,
people are
it's okay on
curious.
him, though.
I'm male pattern baldness. It's people don't understand.
Terrifies you.
Yes, it terrifies me, and my hairline started receding. I noticed it when I was 26. It's not even that
I
bad.
recall those days. You're
Like,
freaking the fuck out.
when I first noticed it, like it's not terrible. But it's like I was like, oh my god, like literally like. And at that time, dude, I had that luscious long hair. Like it was like literally like, dude, like my hair literally got me it got me numbers. All right, like that's what it did. Like my early 20s, being like the bum artist with the long hair. It worked for me for a while there, but it was like it's how I met my wife. But it was like, I was like, oh my god, those days are like, it was like that, like coming to like the end of it type thing. And I remember I'd be in Sophie's apartment and like freaking out about my hairline and talking to your husband and stuff, and he'd be like, dude, relax. And I'm like, no, I can't. And I remember talking to my barber about it. And I'm like, yeah, well, it's starting to recede. And he's like, where? And I was like, look, I know it's subtle, okay, but I can see it. I can see it, all right? I can see it. It's not where it used to be, like 5 years ago.
Yeah, dude. It could be way worse, man.
It could
I know
be,
people
yes.
fucking younger than you, and I ran
Me
into
too,
somebody recently, and I was like,
Especially now at this age.
and he's a younger guy too. He's in his like mid-20s probably, and I'm like, oh, and he was like a good-looking kid. He was like a very classically like Abercrombie style good-looking kid.
Right.
And I was like, oh, this is gonna break your soul.
It does.
This is gonna
people don't
ruin you.
understand how much
especially
that
for
breaks.
someone who's like
Yeah.
good looking, like, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
For someone who was like really took care of themselves, and they're like, oh fuck.
And it's not talked about at all, because anything that plagues men is not talked about. But it's just like this, like it is a huge dispiriting thing that like men just deal with, and everyone's like, oh, shut up.
Yeah.
But yeah, look at good hair plugs. Matthew McConaughey has great hair
I
plugs.
bet.
I just watched the Nick Cage movie. He has mediocre hair plugs. They're not great, but
Yeah.
you can tell he has them. Bill Maher.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, yeah, dude. And he always makes jokes about bald people. I'm like, dude, you have hair plugs. Like, you literally got the surgery. Like, you got it. Like, like you can tell. Like, he has it. Like, dude, anybody whose head is going bald
Mar
and then
didn't wanna
stops.
go bald.
Anybody who's you can see this. There's if people are interested, commented. I can direct you to YouTube channels that do this better than I do. But you can tell, and usually anybody that has that receding hairline that kind of goes back at the edges, and then it stops, and they're like stops at maybe the age 30, 40 in celebrities, and it just stays there for the rest of their life. They've had hair plugs, and they usually, if you've had expensive ones, they're tasteful. So it's like done well. So it's not like they're just making your hairline straight across anymore. They're working with what you have, so it's not like a shocking like difference in like your look. McConaughey has good ones. If you look at
I
pictures
hope
of
this
him,
is real.
oh yeah, dude, you can see it here. Yeah. Sophie just put a picture of Bill Maher. in
See
the
it?
chat.
He's basically a bald man there.
Yes, he is, but it's stopped, right? Like he's in his 60s now too. If you look at somebody like Bill Maher, and it's like it's thinned right there at the front, but it's stopped, like it's not going back any further, and he's well into his 60s now. So he's had some enhancements to that to make it just not go all the way, you know, kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's a big thing for men that is never mentioned at all, but it's huge, devastating, literally soul crushing. It can ruin your life.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's one of those, like, I didn't get married and I just want to fuck women. Like, you know?
Right.
And he doesn't have, like, a pretty face, so once that hair's gone.
And he's short, notoriously short.
Oh, is he? I didn't know that.
You can kind of tell when you see him. It's, my wife and I watch Bill Maher every week, but it's like, yeah, you can kind of tell when he's on there with like a normal sized guest. He's like, you know, he's not like terribly short, but he's like 5'7", 5'8"-ish, kind of around there. So if you're around like somebody that's any taller than that, you look like a midget.
Oh, I feel like I'm about to get deep into a history of Bill Maher's hairline.
Yeah. Fascinating when you start going through with that stuff.
I mean, yeah, I get deep. I'm one of those assholes. I will get like deep into like before and after pictures. Like, oh yeah, did this person have plastic surgery? Let's think about this for the next 3 hours.
Well, and like the really good ones, like the celebrities that have money and can afford the top doctors, it is kind of, if they're good, they're not doing drastic changes to like make people notice. So it's like, is subtle. You're like, did they?
Yeah.
I can't tell. Like, kind of, what a great doctor. Like, you must have had a great surgeon. Yeah. Operating on your face. That scares the shit out of me, dude. I don't know how people do that. Like,
horrifying. Sounds awful. Can you imagine just like getting your chin shaved? Like the bones, not just like the hair.
No, I can't.
Fucking no amount of horse face. No amount of horse face would make me want to. I can't say that actually. Maybe some amount of horse face would make me want to get my chin shaved off.
Shaving chins.
Yeah.
And not just the hairs, not just with the goatee. Maybe that's why Dickens did that really ridiculous goatee. He had like a very goofy, fucked up chin. He like when you
he
like,
had no chin.
there was this guy I worked with. He had like a kind of like a hipster beard, and then like he would shave it like every once a year or whatever. And then like everybody be like, "Oh, you shaved it." And when he would, I'd be like, "Damn, you got a goofy looking face." Like, no wonder you keep that beard up, dude. You got that weird looking face. Yeah, the beard makes it look way better. Yeah, keep that beard. Yeah, it's like all right, what was the
Unfortunate for the men who can't grow beards.
Yeah, dude. All right, so we have this happy redemption ending here since we've been talking about everything other than this book. What do we think of it? What do we think of the ending?
Oh, it's fine.
Like a happy redemption.
Yeah, it's just ending. It's like it's happy. It's like, and then you know, fucking God bless us everyone. Like what the fuck am I supposed to say about it?
God bless us. I mean, it's that celebratory thing. Like you see it in the movies where he's in the street and everybody's happy and like stuff like that.
Make a joke. He lives on the total abstinence principle when it comes to spirits. He doesn't fuck with them anymore.
It's like It's a Wonderful Life, man. You're actually the richest man in the fucking town, actually. You just didn't know it. It just wasn't money that you were wealthy in. Kind of thing.
Yeah, it's good. I like the moments where it feels like our narrator is talking to us directly.
With the you, when he cuts into the you, second person you, referencing the reader. Yeah, I noticed that too.
Like when he is talking about the spirit and he's like, it's, you know, as much here as I am here, standing like right at your elbow, you know, like that was kind of fun. It's those moments that I can imagine a really lively reading.
Yeah. God bless us.
But yeah, it's fun. I'm glad to have read it. It's really like a low commitment kind of read. It didn't like knock anything loose for me. It didn't like blow me away. I didn't experience any extreme nostalgia. I did watch a little bit of A Muppet Christmas.
It's a good one, dude. The
Before we hopped
songs.
on here just
I'll just listen to the songs
because
sometimes.
that's really it. Really is the best one. The other ones really do kind of suck.
And it came out right at the right time for our childhood. Like that came out like what, like 94?
I wasn't big on the Muppets, but I
You didn't like
liked
the
that.
Muppets?
I liked some of the movies.
Yo, Jim Henson, dude. Maryland to represent, dude. University of Maryland. Jim Henson.
Dude, I didn't say I didn't like Jim Henson.
Yeah,
just,
dude,
you know,
Muppets.
other Jim Henson.
Muppets, dude. I guess he was dead by the time they did. I mean, no, I think the Muppets
Really like
Christmas
the
Carol was the
Dark
last thing he
Crystal.
did before he died. With like the Muppets.
Was it like Treasure Island? I feel like maybe like
The Treasure Island was a
scares
good
me.
one.
I also like.
Yeah. The Black Spot.
I also think I got like scared. Yeah, the black spot really freaked me out, and I think that turned me off
Gonzo
of
and Rizzo.
the Muppets,
Yeah.
which I already kind of had a hard time with, just because like Sesame Street used to give me nightmares, and
Damn.
Muppets is only, you know, it's just such a short step away. It's still puppets. Something about those puppets really got to me. I would
I
have
never
this
got
recurring
nightmares from
nightmare.
those, though.
I'd have this recurring nightmare, dude, where it was like I was in this cave and it was like off this winding highway on the side of a mountain, and everything inside was covered in bright pink bubble gum, and I was chewing bubble gum, and the Count was there, and he's like, "You gotta keep chewing," and I was like, "Okay," and I just had to keep chewing. My jaw was so fucking tired, dude, and I was covered in it. It was everywhere. I was stuck. I like couldn't get home. It was awful. Yeah, couldn't watch Sesame Street.
Damn, dude. That is quite a nightmare.
It was really fucked up.
Damn, you can't even enjoy children's entertainment. Sophie just has
Or
terrible...
bubble gum.
Sophie had terrible nightmares. Like every time she watched like a friendly kid show, she'll, oh my God.
Yeah, my sister cried at Disney on Ice.
Damn. Because it was sad
Terrified.
or because she was terrified of the character? Like
Horrifying. Because she was sad.
Disney on Ice was big when we were kids too.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah. I never actually went to one.
So is
but-
like all that shit, the circus. I guess that's just like big when you're a kid. Right?
Yeah, but it's kind of the last big. I mean, circuses don't exist anymore, dude.
like all those like dinky little things that you get
Yeah.
when you go to shit like that, like little light up things, and
Right.
God, yeah, that shit. Like that's what it is, right? Like it all just makes you nostalgic for childhood.
Yeah. Same thing with circus. You know what it was for me, dude. I know it probably was for you too. Thing I remember the most about state fairs and the circus because they were all on Timonium Fairgrounds there
Oh,
in
yeah.
Maryland. And I remember when you park and you go into the Timonium Fairgrounds for the state fair or the circus, whatever was coming there that time to use the space, you had to walk by the livestock barns to get in when you parked your car in the lot. And I
That
just remember
smell.
the smell. Yeah, like the smell of like animal shit and piss. Like every time I walked into the circus or the state fair, and I remember like I just remember it so vividly, dude. I remember the white concrete stalls, the uneven terrain, the smells. I'll never forget it. Every time I went to a fair or a circus, I had to smell animal shit before you came in. You know,
Oh yeah.
it's very
Circus
unique
always
to.
kinda freaked me out.
Yeah, shout out to anybody listening in Baltimore. They'll know what we're talking about. Probably nobody.
Yeah, that and that one house on Giddings, you know, right at the end up there. It always dresses up for Christmas. They do it up. Giddings Ave.
I don't remember that one.
Oh, dude.
Is that a Towson thing?
It's right. I mean, it's like down the street from my parents. There are a
Right.
lot of houses that are right down
Like
over there.
Rogers Forge area.
Rogers Forge area.
Yeah.
Like where Giddings turns into Walker. Like Giddings meets York Road and becomes Walker by like the Drum Castle apartments and all that. God damn, we're getting deep into it now.
Deep into it, y'all. Deep into
By
the
Wells
Christmas
Liquors.
lore. Deep
Over
into
by
the-
Wells Liquors.
Yeah. Stop by Wells. We used to know people that worked there when we were teens. They would get us booze. Yeah. No. I guess that's it. We like the happy ending. Very
Yeah,
Christmas.
man. I mean, like, would it be better if it ended
Scrooge didn't redeem himself and was miserable.
and Tiny Tim is dead, and now it's like we're ending the
The
Christmas
cripple
story.
kid died.
I mean, that sounds remarkably Jewish.
It sounds like the Hanukkah celebration, not Christmas. If you killed everybody.
That sounds like a Jewish god.
Yeah, it sounds like the Hanukkah tradition, where it's just about suffering and death, surviving oppression.
We're literally at Passover. It's like, you ask all of these questions, and it's just the answer to all of them is because never forget your suffering.
The
That's
blood
the whole
of the
thing.
lamb.
Never forget.
We had to mark our doors so that we didn't get killed by the angry God.
You were a slave. Your ancestors were slaves.
Remember? Yeah, dude. That's always funny when you bring that up. Yeah.
There's one that's literally like, why do we sit back on a pillow? And the answer is, we recline. I'm like, that's all you got?
What is this?
We
These are
recline.
questions you ask at Passover as
They're
part of the
four
tradition?
questions. Yeah, it's 4 questions. It's like all in. I have like this children's Haggadah that my parents gave like me and my sister when we were younger.
Right.
And we used to read. That's like one tradition I would say we had. Me and my sister didn't take it very seriously, but we would like take it upon ourselves to do our own renditions of the various stories.
Yeah, I mean, dude, the reason I know all the Bible stories, Old Testament and New,
It's because of the fucking Bible.
well, specifically because when I was
You
little,
went to Catholic school?
Well, that too, but specifically because when I was little, my parents gave me this like children's Bible that was like dumbed down versions of the stories, and they were like, illustrated and stuff in cartoon. And it was my favorite book as a kid because of like some of the stories in there, like the Tower of Babel and stuff were like some of my favorite ones. So like I would just make my mom read it to me every night. Like I'm talking literally like younger than 5 type thing. It was just one of my favorite books, so I like knew all the stories basically from this fucking children's Bible that like I had like and was like obsessed with as a kid. Because even if you take the religious stuff out of it, like there's some great fucking stories. Right? Those are some great fucking
I just
sci-fi
liked all the parts
stories
about God dropping frogs on Pharaoh's head.
Yeah, that was a big one. That's how I know a lot of the Jewish traditions because I read the Old Testament, but like in a little kid version.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have to actually read like the full prosy style like text in high school or anything. I'd read sections of it or something when they made me take those courses, but reading the actual whole thing I've actually never done, but I've read the children's thing, the whole thing over and over again, which is just dumbed down. Yeah, it's just less violent. Like, they don't have like the horror aspect to it, like like Jesus saving the whores and stuff like that. They leave that part out, for the kids version or whatever. But yeah, man, and it's just this redemption. And I guess if we want to get really into it, the pagan tradition, right? I mean, really, it follows the moon, right? It's the birth of the new moon is what they say that the birth of Jesus Christ comes out.
Is it?
From. Well, if you want to get really into the history of this, people can look up. There's plenty of little 20-minute YouTube videos that go into some of this. There's some documentaries. But yeah, a lot of stuff is this mix of Christian, Jewish, pagan, and there's a lot of stuff we added in the Victorian era when Queen Victoria started doing things for Christmas. That became, so some of the traditions aren't that old. Some of them are thousands of years old. Like putting up a tree and lighting it and decorating it, like that's thousands of years old. And if you look at the history of like actual like the Saint Nicholas, who Santa Claus is based off of and stuff like that, there's German lore, there's, more Nordic lore and things like that. And then there's like kind of the southern regions of Europe had different lore about it too. And then they've all kind of been smashed together throughout the centuries to like kind of make what we now know as like Western, mostly Christian, kind of the story of Christmas and Jesus and stuff. So we could get into like that kind of thing, but maybe that's where it's all come from. This is the new year, new beginning, end of one thing, celebrating a new thing. I don't know. But we love fucking Christmas, dude. It's a Wonderful Life, dude. I gotta watch it now. I'm gonna probably watch it tonight, dude. I'll put it on.
Yeah. I'll watch it too, but probably not tonight because husband is homesick.
Yeah, this is my wife. She's homesick today.
So I guess he gets to control the TV.
Has he seen it? He's definitely seen it.
I so doubt it.
Oh, I bet he has, dude.
I so doubt it, dude.
Yeah.
I just walked downstairs and he was watching something called Troll.
Never heard of it.
I don't know. I think it's like Irish Godzilla. I don't know. But it's troll.
Troll.
It's Godzilla, but a troll instead of Godzilla.
Dude, I tear up every time I watch it, dude. I don't tear up during...
Godzilla?
No.
One.
I don't tear up during A Christmas Carol. But...
Well, but like, which one do you watch other than the Muppets one? Like, which one?
Usually the Muppets one and the Mr. Magoo one are the one I watch almost every year or every other year. You know, not every fucking year. But every couple years I'll watch those because those are the ones I watched as a kid over and over again. So I really like those. We had the Mr. Magoo's on like a VHS.
I don't know that.
And like
I
the Disney...
really truly think I only know the Muppets one. Like, that's the only one I think I've actually seen all the way through, other than like stage productions, which I was bored to death, by the way, as a child.
I've never seen a stage production.
But I was also like inattentive and bored generally. That wasn't like specific to that play.
I don't know, dude. As I get older, I cry at a lot of weird things now, too.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, dude, just the end of books and stuff.
How weird we talking? Oh,
I mean, not even weird, but like when I just...
Yeah, not weird.
Way more than I used to is all I mean. Like way more than I would like even 5 years ago when I read certain things, and I'll just like sob for like 20 minutes after I read it.
You got that low T, man?
Low T, yeah. Low T. No, I mean, maybe. Who knows?
I love those commercials.
Oh, with the testosterone replacement?
Yeah. It's a very real thing, man. So I hear.
Well, there's a way people talk about it. If you talk about it in like the kind of manosphere online, I mean, people are talking about it in kind of a derogatory way. If you talk about it in other ways, where there's like the biological occurrence of like your glands stop producing as much testosterone as they would.
Yeah, I assume that can be a legit issue for some people.
So you look at somebody like Joe Rogan's on testosterone. Jeff Bezos is definitely on testosterone.
Basically, what we're saying is I'm not making like a joke. I mean, I was definitely making a joke. You're a bitch. Is what I'm saying. No, I'm joking.
Right. I can handle it, dude.
Cut all that. I can cut all that out.
Oh yeah, dude, for sure. People have always said that.
Like, yeah, fucking Scrooge. Oh, that's the other place I've seen it. I've seen Scrooge McDuck.
Oh, the Scrooge McDuck, yeah, and then the Bill Murray Scrooge that everybody plays on like TBS every year.
I don't know if I remember. I like remember the name, but I don't know if I like remember it. But I would just imagine if that would be up there. If there is one that I remember, I'm sure that would be among them.
But just like how iconic, it's like the name Scrooge. You can't name any other character Ebenezer or Scrooge any longer, like because of this story. Like this story, it's just too famous. It's too big of a character. Yeah. It's like if you're going to name your Holden Caulfield, or not as, and even this is bigger than Holden Caulfield or anything like that. It is. Right? So it's like just those iconic. Because
someone out there would hear Holden and be like, "Oh, that's an interesting name. Where'd you hear that?" I don't know why I went Southern. I'm not saying anything about Southern people. Not making a comment about it. Just want to be clear. That was just a fucking dumb voice I did.
Yeah. So it's like so iconic with that. I mean, I just can't. I love Christmas.
I love the stuff around Christmas.
All part of it.
I like candles and lights and shit.
Favorite songs? Cookies.
I don't really care about Christmas music.
No Christmas music.
What do you think? Are you gonna keep going for a little bit? Because if so, I'm gonna grab something to drink.
No, I mean, I covered everything I wanted to.
Yeah, I didn't really have much notes. The only big note I had that like really made a lot of sense to me that he would say like, "Oh, I don't want to sacrifice entertainment for the literary."
Yeah, I guess we didn't talk as much about like writing craft as we normally do, but like whatever. It's a Christmas book, dude. This is Christmas.
It's a Christmas book.
This is the Christmas episode.
I mean, like, it's fucking Dickens, dude. It's great craft. We'll fucking read Great Expectations next time or something.
Yeah, I haven't read that, and now I'm like, yeah, I want to.
Or one of the big books. I remember the movie. I remember being really interested in the movie when I was younger.
And I think, I guess it was just that time, like the very Christian time, or like Victorian kind of Puritan time, where they were just all about these redemption kind of Christmas stories. Propriety and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah, I
like,
don't know anything about the history except what I looked up earlier. That was just like, I mean, basically, from what I understand, like, Puritans were like, no Christmas. They were like really anti.
right.
Is that accurate?
Well,
like,
I don't know, but I mean, Puritans were just
don't know
anti-everything,
shit.
dude. Puritans were just anti-anything fun, nostalgic, anything that brought you joy, because that was, like, immediately suspicious. And I think we are, on some level, suspicious of things that make us happy, to some extent. Things that
Let's
make us
see.
sad.
Yeah, when Massachusetts banned Christmas, the Puritan War on Christmas, blah, blah, blah.
Dude, those fucking Puritans in Massachusetts, dude. Those fucking Puritans.
Tiny state, you know?
Dude, and all those fucking Mayflower landings and shit, and those fucking people with their Puritan bullshit. Telling us we can't have Christmas.
Fucking pilgrims.
The
I'm just conflating shit now. Say we bring it back, start burning witches. See if they float.
Yeah. Let's say, dude, we're well within that time. We're not burning witches, but we're doing the metaphorical equivalent right now in our culture.
God bless us, everyone.
Yeah.
Tiny Tim.
His little high chair next to Bob Cratchit, dude.
Oh, yeah, he is pathetic. Yeah, why are you so happy?
Because he's so pure of heart.
Nah,
He's the antithesis to Scrooge.
no one's that pure.
Yeah, I mean, no one is that pure, but, it's a story.
I'm a pure, broken little boy.
He's broken, but he's not. The Simon Birch kind of speaking of tearjerkers, dude.
Simon Birch. Yeah. Talk to, who'll want to talk to you about that one.
Who?
It's one of Bill's favorite
Oh, really?
little throwbacks. Wasn't that some fucked up movie?
Yeah. It's very sad. It's up there with, like, My Girl and shit.
But
Where
doesn't someone, like, play... Hold up.
You mean, like, the source material for the movie?
Yeah, like,
I don't
but
know.
who... There was something, like, really funny about that movie that I can't think of, and it just had Bill and John both cracking up. Because they, like, watched it together one time. I don't fucking know. It's really weird. It's also really fucking weird that they chose to watch this together.
It's a sad movie, man. And that one's about friendship, too. Loss. It's like My Girl with that kind of...
Yeah,
The
I didn't watch
loss.
My Girl either.
The loss, dude.
It just sounded... I remember My Girl seeming so depressing. I was like, why the fuck would I watch this?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes people just want to be sad. They want to cry.
Ugh.
Dramas. Sometimes. I mean, you don't even... like
Yeah,
I
I
said,
get
sometimes
it.
these
I
books,
get
dude.
it.
I'll read these books and I'll be like, oh my God. I didn't even realize how much it was, like, affecting me until, like, I finish. I just tear up. Those poor little handicapped kids, dude. Those poor little handicapped kids suffering, dude.
God bless us, everyone.
Yeah, dude, and they're so pure of heart. And you're like, oh.
They talk like this.
Yeah, well, like, the idea that, like, yeah. I mean, that's a constant theme, too, right? We talk separate peace. We could talk... What's that? That's that... Stump. What's that short story with that boy who loses his arm?
I don't know. But tell me, I want to read it.
I can't remember it, dude. It's
Fuck.
very famous, though, where it's like there's two boys. The one's the football star, and he loses his arm. And it's told through the kid that like he always was jealous of this kid because he was better at football, he was better in school, he had more friends, and he loses his arm, and the kid is like happy that he lost his arm because now he gets to be the starting fullback in the football team. And like,
Fuck.
but then he learns that like the kid that lost his arm in the accident is like, you know, has a heart of gold. He's literally a saint. Like the guy is like still like better than him as a person, and he kind of realizes, you know, that the whole kind of moral of the story, that actually he's a terrible person for like, you know, and this guy that he thought he
Wishing
didn't like.
ill on somebody that appeared to have it all. Yeah, sounds good. I'd read it.
Redemption, man. It's a famous short story. I can't even remember the name of it. I can't remember. God, dude, this is what all these English degrees are for me to not remember the name of a story that I just describe in detail.
Yeah, that's okay. Sure, from the description you could find it.
Yeah.
All right. Oh,
All right, we done?
God bless us.
Yeah, we're done. Reminder to listeners, we're still looking for those workshop horror stories. Send the workshop horror story to heavyboardpodcast@gmail.com. We also have subscription plans go to patreon.com/heavyboard, and you can receive full uncensored access to our entire back catalog, bonus episodes, etc., including the bonus episodes I'm going to do on these film adaptations of A Christmas Carol. Sign up to get those. If you don't want to do that, there are other ways to support us. You can leave us a 5-star review on Apple. That helps us out. You can check out, subscribe, like, share our YouTube channels, anything on there. That helps support us and helps us grow. And this is our last one for the year here, so we're going to be starting off the year with a little celebrity poetry next episode. We're going to be doing a little Lana Del Rey. Violet bent backwards over the grass. So stay tuned. This has been Heavy Board.
Yes.
God bless us, everyone.
God bless us, everyone. Bye, Hitler.
Yeah, dude, it's a little sign off.
Bye, Hitler.
Hitler's Secret Christmas, dude. Like a new book.
I was thinking about like what it would be like if I wrote a children's book. I feel like it'd be very nose forward. Really just get that trauma out of the way.
Yeah, dude. Help young marginalized large nose havers, dude.
Large nose havers.
Yeah. It's a new marginalized identity, dude, that you can suffer from. Only a few people that suffer from it, but they must be accommodated.
Dude, I fucking remember watching this episode of one of those fucking like TLC shows. I don't fucking know. And it was like this 16-year-old girl, and she really wanted a nose job. And I was like, what? And then I saw the girl. And I'm like, oh, it's that large. And I thought, yeah, it seems like the good mom thing to do at this stage.
Correct the genetics, dude.
Dude, I mean, it was a honker. And it was like pointy and long and like...
Witch nose.
Oh, it was bad. Dude, my niece told me I have a witch nose. Like, at the dinner table.
I say that's
kind of recently.
It's a microaggression,
like, oh,
dude.
Shit.
Microaggression.
Damn, bitch. Yeah. Aren't you old enough to know? Like,
aren't you old enough to not...
to say bitchy things? Like...
Stop microaggressing at the dinner table.
Yeah.
To a marginalized nose havers.
God damn, bitch. Yeah, us marginalized fucking large nose havers.
Yeah.
It's one of those where I feel like we didn't really talk about the book and we just talked about what Christmas means, but I don't care.
Heavy.
Bored.
Heavy.
I am heavy bored.
shows such a lack of gratitude for life. Bored. I aspire to boredom, I should say.
Bored. Heavy.
I am heavy.
Bored.
Has you the night sweats and the day sweats, pal? Pal, I do.